For those of you who are here for the first time, we're doing a new series on Mishlei, the parable, the Proverbs of Shlomo Melech, the great wisdom that he has to share with us, his experience, a lot of advice in many areas of life. We're holding in the middle of Perek Het, chapter 8. Before I continue, I just want to go over some important points, what the benefit of learning Mishlei is all about. As you know, Shlomo Melech wrote various sefarim, Mishlei, Kohelet, Shir Hashirim. And Kohelet and Mishlei are very similar in that they talk about life. And it would be a good idea for anyone to learn Mishlei and Kohelet early on, so he does not have to repeat the same mistakes that many people make. People continue to make similar mistakes all the time. If we were to read and grasp and follow what he says, then hopefully we would not make those mistakes. But it's more than just not making mistakes. What I find very important about Mishlei and Kohelet in the Torah as a whole, it is not just a source of knowledge, it's not only our heritage, it really guides us in understanding what should be a priority in life and what's totally nonsense and unimportant. People get a heartache over many things that are really shtuyot, a bunch of nonsense. Why lose a friend? Why fight with a brother about nonsense, about things that have no importance? You really have to weigh your priorities and decide for yourself what's more important in life. And human beings have a problem. They're biased and they don't use their judgment properly at all times, and they may decide that one thing is more important than another when it really should not be. In learning Mishlei, hopefully one will see what really is important in life and what should be just casted off into oblivion, not attributed too much importance. A lot of that is seen in Kohelet, where he actually makes fun of many behaviors that people demonstrate. Mishlei is also about musar, the ethics, the proper conduct in life, and he spends quite a few pesukim on describing the importance of Torah. He speaks about the importance of Torah to he who learns the Torah. He speaks about the great loss that an individual will have if he does not learn the Torah. He speaks about the value, the praise of Torah in itself, what it's all about. And he does that from time to time in the various perakim to remind us that all the sources of trouble that he will point out, and there are many in life, sources of trouble, one of the only ways to get out of them, to avoid them, is by attaching oneself to this chokhmah, to this wisdom, to the Torah. Towards the end of chapter 8, he introduces another kind of benefit that one will have from Torah, very unusual type of benefit, and that's called the orma. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Orma means trickery. When one learns Torah, one will become wise and knowledgeable in many areas, and he will also be cognizant or aware of trickery. Now, don't misunderstand me that you could use the Torah to trick people. That's not, he's going to say that that's not what he meant. It's that one can be aware of all the tricks that are out there, whether it's the trick of the Yetzer Hara, whether it's the trick of another individual, to lure one away from the ways of Hashem. So I'm going to begin with Pasuk, where we left off, Pasuk Yud Bet. Ani chokhmah shachanti orma v'da'at mezimot imtza. I, wisdom, I dwell with prudence, or with orma as I translated with trickery, and find knowledge and discretion. He's telling us that the Torah teaches us how to be aware of certain tricks. The Torah lets us know what human beings use to convince one another, especially individuals who love money. Those who love money have all sorts of ways and tricks on how to acquire that money and how to cheat people. And therefore, he wants to warn us about some of that trickery so that we do not fall into that trap. The commentaries explain that it's a fact that the majority of the world likes money. Money is something that people want to get their hands on. And as a result of that, depending on how strong the ta'ava, the desire is, one may do almost anything to get his hands on money. Money has become so important in our age that it has become like an egel hazahav, like a golden calf. People will go out of their way and travel long distances and do all sorts of things to get their hands on money. So that is one of the things that he wants to warn us about, the tahbulot, as the word is used in Hebrew, the many methods, wrong methods, crooked methods used to obtain that money, and how to avoid these traps, and how to recognize the people, those individuals who do these things. But one of the points that stands out, nevertheless, throughout the Perek is as follows. In the same way that there are people who like money, there are some people who will come to the conclusion after learning all of this that the chokhmah is much more valuable than all the money in the world. All this wisdom is much more important. He says, if you reach that conclusion, then he has done his job. That's basically what he's trying to say. Throughout the Sefer, if you've gotten that point, that this chokhmah that I'm sharing with you is more important than all the money, then I did my job right. On this pasuk, just a little bit more elaboration. The Chachamim tell us about orma, about trickery, that when one learns Torah, one will acquire some trickery. In other words, because the Torah covers so many areas, from agriculture to zoology. If you learn the Gemara, you become knowledgeable in just about any area in the world. So one will become aware of orma. Now it's up to him, obviously, if he wants to use it against others or not, but that's not the point here. He will become aware of certain things. Nichneset bo armumit, a certain amount of trickery will enter him, and hopefully all he will do with that is learn how to identify it, but not use it against others. And that is what the meaning of edat mezimot emtza. I will use all this discretion to my benefit, but not chas v'shalom against other people. Another idea that is expressed here by our rabbis using the word orma. Orma has a similar root to the word arum, naked. That if a person wants to acquire all this chokhmah, he has to be willing to make himself naked of all wealth. That is an expression meaning that he should not pursue wealth, and he should not make that a priority in his life, because otherwise you will not be able to obtain the two. You have a choice. You want to become a chacham, you want to become very knowledgeable, then you have to abstain from certain luxuries. You have to hold yourself back from certain interests. You can't go to golf during the weekends. You can't go travel around the world and do all sorts of things. You can enjoy life, you can still do a lot of things, but you cannot put the emphasis on enjoying yourself and having a good time and acquire all this chokhmah. So they use the word orma as arum. You have to be willing to become naked of all the wealth in order to acquire the chokhmah. Another idea that is expressed by the rabbis is to use trickery against the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is after us. He works very hard to defeat us, to weaken us. So we have to use trickery against him. As we will see in the future, we'll see another pasuk that expresses it much more. When you wage war, you have to have strategy. And what kind of war are we talking about? The war against the Yetzer, because it's a daily war. Daily war, and nobody can say that the Yetzer today did not try to weaken him in some way or another. Every day he tries, and he tries it from a different angle. It could be at business, it could be at home with our spouse and our children, it can make us get angry, it could be a problem of just anything. The Yetzer Hara works at all times to try to find some weakness and to defeat the Jew or the Goy. So we need to use trickery against him too. And what's one type of trickery? Trying to make small accomplishments, taking small steps. Rabbis tell us in Pirkei Avot, tafasta merube lo tafasta. If you may be excited one day, you may want to do a lot of things, a lot of mitzvot. Don't try to take too much upon yourself, because in the end you won't do anything. The Yetzer might come to the individual and tell him, you're a big rasha, you got to do teshuvah. You got to take upon yourself all these mitzvot. You got to go to minyan, you got to learn Torah, you got to put on tzitzit, you got to keep Shabbat, you got to keep kosher. The wife has to go to the mikveh. Your kids have to be taken out of the public school. All of these things, and one may become excited and convinced and says, okay, don't do all of this at once, because it's guaranteed to fail. We're not capable of taking too much upon ourselves, anything. So one way to defeat the Yetzer is to take one step at a time. And little by little, we learn a couple pesukim a day, one Mishnah, one or two halachot. And by the end of the year, you will be surprised. You'll be amazed how much you can accomplish, how much one accomplishes over time. I'm sure all of you have heard stories of people who have accumulated pennies, just pennies, over 35 years. There was a story in the internet not too long ago. Thousands of dollars over the years just by filling barrels of pennies. His pennies, friends' pennies that they gave him. Penny at a time. It accumulates to a lot. So one has to use orma against the Yetzer Hara because that's what he uses against us. Now Shlomo Melech explains himself. He says, I use the word orma, but don't think I meant it in a bad way, in a negative way, orma meaning trickery. Why? Because Yirat Adonai senot ra. Ge'a v'gaon v'derech ra ufita hapuchot saneti. After all, I'm about to teach you how to fear Hashem. And the essence of fear of Hashem is to hate all evil, to hate those who are proud, who have pride, who are arrogant, to hate the evil way and the perverse mouth. That's called tapuchot. All this I hate. All this is against Yirat Hashem. Therefore, any orma that I've been telling you about is not the negative type, it's the good type. Because Yirat Hashem is against all of that which is perverse. Now, there's something very interesting about this. Yirat Hashem is against that which is perverse, that which is evil. But there is a problem. How are we human beings supposed to identify someone who is evil if this is the first time we meet him, or even if we know him for a week? Should he be our partner? Should we lend him money? Can we trust him? I don't think we can trust anybody, just anybody, right? But hopefully we can trust one who's a Yerei Hashem, one who's God-fearing. But how do you recognize one who's God-fearing? By the length of his beard? There is a lot of people who have very long beards, and I wouldn't trust them with anything. Nothing whatsoever. The beard doesn't say anything about the person. So how do you tell if somebody's God-fearing? Or the other way around. I'm going to talk a little bit about an incredible topic that's called hypocrisy. Because tapuchot, which is a perverse mouth, what it really means is echad balev, echad bapeh. That is the language that the Chachamim use to describe one who is not sincere. He is one way in his heart and one way in his mouth. He doesn't practice what he preaches. What he says he doesn't do himself. He puts on a show that he is a big tzaddik and hasid, and he's the most corrupt individual. So how can we recognize these two individuals? So we don't have the time to go through all the points there, and I'm sure there are quite a few on how to recognize one who's Yerei Hashem, but I'm just going to give you a few. God-fearing person, his word is a word. A word is a word. He keeps his word. He promised, he delivers, even if it's difficult for him. Milah ze milah. That doesn't tell you everything about the person, but that's a very important characteristic. A lot of people talk a lot. They promise, and they don't mean what they promise to begin with. They're just liars. Honesty, and that you can tell in doing business with someone. If he pays on time his workers, or he tries to get away with it. You can tell a lot about a person, as we explained a couple of weeks ago, bekiso. Bekiso, bekoso, bekaaso. With his finances, when he has drank a little bit too much, and he's intoxicated, and when you're intoxicated, all the secrets come out. And bekaaso, when one is angry, what does he do when he's angry? Does he yell? Does he throw? Does he curse? So you can test an individual to see a little bit more about him in these three areas. Another interesting, perhaps, way of recognizing one who's God-fearing, I heard when I was in yeshiva, one of the rabbis, who used to be consulted with for shidduchim, tell me, how do you recognize if somebody's God-fearing, somebody's a good boy? So I try to see if he talks in the middle of the prayer. Be'emtza amidah, especially. In the amidah, when one is not allowed to talk, even when the chazan is repeating the amidah, if you see people talking, that means they don't care about the prayer. They have no respect for the Beit Knesset and for the prayer. That shows a lack of Yirat Hashem. You can be a great individual, Talmid Chacham Gadol Meod. He simply is ignoring a very clear halacha. And if you're ignoring a clear and obvious halacha, then you can't be Yerei Hashem. Yerei Hashem is really careful with everything as much as possible, unless he doesn't know. So there are various little ways and points where one can tell if one is really Yerei Hashem, or he couldn't care less. But what about hypocrisy? This is my favorite. Hypocrisy. Unfortunately, there's a lot of hypocrites in this world, so we have to recognize them. There was once a father, very rich man, who was about to leave this world. And you know, when one is about to leave this world, he becomes serious. He calls over his son. Listen, I don't have that much chokhmah to share with you. I'm going to leave you all my money. I just want to give you one warning. One thing that I can tell you. And remember this for the rest of your life. Be careful from the tzbu'im. Be careful from hypocrites. They are the individuals who give the impression to be one type of person, but deep down in their heart, they're completely rotten. Completely. And you know how you can tell? How you can identify them? If you ever hear any of them expressing exaggerated hasidut, exaggerated mercy, exaggerated righteousness, something which is exaggerated, that is not normal, it's unseen, it's unusual. If somebody says something which is just to the extreme, be suspicious that this is perhaps a real tzavua, a real hypocrite. You know, people are careful with certain things, but if somebody is careful in an exaggerated way, he does something to show that he's careful, and it appears to be that he's a tzaddik, he's careful, but in an exaggerated way, be suspicious of him. The father passed away. This man, the son, married an orphan girl, a poor girl. So he thought he had a good girl, he had a good woman, good for a wife. And he lived with her for many years. Everything appeared to be quiet. But he found something wrong with her. Every time he asked her, let's go and travel around the world a little bit. Let's go for a tiyul, to have, just a little bit of vacation. She would say, you know what, my dear husband, I really don't want to go out in the streets because I don't want people to see me. It's not modest for men to look at women. That's strange. He says he never heard that before. He heard about modesty, but that his wife should be so careful as to not want to travel just because men are going to look at her. It was a little suspicious, but, what could he do about it? But this repeated itself. There were many similar incidents until he decided, I'm going to test her. One day he decides that he's going to tell her, listen, if you don't want to go with me, I'm going to go by myself. All right. And he prepared himself another key, and he gave her the key to the house, so she should not know that he has another key to the house. And he told her he's going away and he won't be back till after a month. He goes away, but he didn't go away completely. After a couple hours, when it was already nighttime, and she thought that he was gone, he came back at night when everything was quiet and opened the door with his spare key, and guess what he found in the house? His wife with another man in the master bedroom. As soon as she saw that she was discovered, she tells her boyfriend, kill him. This is his wife of many years. This is a true story. Kill him. So he ran away. He ran away, saved his life, but he was so distraught and so moved and shaken that he just found the first bench and fell asleep. In the street, overnight, camped out. That night, it just happened to be that somebody broke into the treasury of the king and stole a whole bunch of jewels. So the guards went out to search, and they found this homeless guy, and they suspected that he was the man. And they took him to jail. He, of course, denied everything. I never took anything. They tortured him to try to get a confession, and he said, no, I'm sorry, I never did anything wrong. All right, you don't admit it, we're going to hang you. What can we do? The custom was in those days, as is still today in the non-Jewish countries, the one who's taken to the gallows, a priest goes with him along the way so that he should confess his sins to the priest. So as he's walking with the priest and the guard, he overhears that this priest tells the guard, don't take him too close to the sidewalk there because there's a bunch of ants, and I don't want him to step on those little poor ants. Kirahamav al kol ma'asav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has mercy over all his creatures. So move him away from where the ants are so he shouldn't step on them. A light bulb turned on in his head. He says, this guy must be a tzavua himself. This priest is a hypocrite. He's perverted. Remember, he remembered what his father told him. This is exaggerated. So he says, you know what? He tells the guard, I want to confess. Take me back to the king. They take him back to the king. He wants to confess, yes, Your Honor, me and that priest, we stole your jewels. Really? So as soon as they heard that, they went to check the priest's home, and they found the jewels in the priest's home. He was the real thief. He was a tzavua, a hypocrite. So the king asked him, tell me, since when did you become friends with the priest so quickly? That you decided to share the spoils? You only know him from today. He says, Your Honor, I'll tell you the truth. The real story is, once upon a time, my father gave me this important piece of advice, how to recognize a tzavua. I overheard him say about the ants that we shouldn't step on them, so I suspected that he was a thief. And this is what my story is all about. The reason I was sleeping outside is because that's what happened to me at home too. I discovered that my wife was a hypocrite too. The king investigated the story with his wife. He found out that this man was saying the truth, and that woman and the priest were hanged. Just an interesting story about sviot, hypocrisy. There are a lot of people out there who are hypocrites. It's just a fact in life. Every time, every place, in every generation, it's just there are certain individuals like that, and one has to be careful with them. That is the meaning here of tahpuchot, perverted mouth, people who are hypocrite, who are not echad balev, who are echad balev, echad bapeh. They're not honest. We have to be careful with them. There are other stories, but we're going to run out of time. But people who trusted others with their money. Can you watch over my money for Shabbat? And after Shabbat says, I don't know what you're talking about. What money? You must have dreamt that you had money. There was a story that maybe some other time. You must have dreamt about the money. You never gave me money. Anyway, another time we'll talk about it. Yeah, there are people, especially when it comes to money, as I said before. Let's go on. Next pasuk, li etza v'tushia ani bina li gevura. Counsel is mine, advice, sound wisdom. I am understanding, I have strength. The Torah here is described as giving etza and tushia, advice and strength. Other than just knowledge, it actually gives us strength to fight off the Yetzer Hara. It is a known fact that whoever learns Torah regularly has much more strength. His spiritual batteries are strengthened to be able to combat with the Yetzer Hara. Another idea that is expressed here is advice. What kind of advice can we get from the Torah? It is known that one who is seeking Hashem's assistance to be able to resolve the matter, he can ask the Torah to give him advice. One has to know how to do it. It's called the Goral. There are certain Chachamim that do it from time to time for very important questions. Rabbi Aaron Kotler was known to have employed this technique. It was just after the Holocaust. Where do I go? Do I go to America or do I go to Israel? It's a very important question. And his answer came out in the Torah, Lech el Moshe Midbara. His name was Aaron, right? And Hashem tells him, go to Moshe to the desert. Which Moshe is it the Torah talking about? Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, who was back then in the desert known as the United States of America. And that is how he made this decision to go. In other words, the Torah, if we know how to do it, through the Torah we can get the advice that we need for whatever it is that we need to know. There are certain things that we don't need to know, and that is the future. On that the pasuk says, Tamim tiyem Hashem elokecha. Just trust in Hashem. Don't try to figure out what will happen. Etzah v'tushiyah, the Torah gives us advice and strength on how to save ourselves from all sorts of crooks and how to withstand all sorts of pressures. Am Yisrael had to withstand all sorts of pressures throughout history. If it wouldn't be for the Torah, the strength that the Torah gives us, we would not be able to stand through all the pressures. Bimelachim yimlochu v'rozenim yechokiku tzedek. Just loosely translate, the kings reign by me and princes decree justice. In this pasuk, the commentaries explain, we find that, even though it is said later on in different words, but we find the idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who's in charge of appointing kings. Those who rule, it is because Hashem decides they will rule. Who becomes the prime minister, who becomes the king, it's Hashem's really decision. He puts them into power, He brings them down too. It all depends on their behavior. and Hashem's cheshbonot of why this individual has to be in power. V'rozenim yachokuku tzedek. We find that many of the laws that were put together in many nations, yachokuku tzedek, the reason why many of these laws are similar to the Torah, because that is where they come from. The non-Jewish world has borrowed many of the laws in this country and in other countries from our Torah, from our Gemara. So this Torah is not only being used and being learned by Am Yisrael, the Goyim have adopted some of it. Again, he's describing the value of the Torah, how even the non-Jewish world values it. Bisarim yasoru undivim kol shofte tzedek. By me princes rule and nobles, even all the judges of the earth. That's another very important pasuk. Commentaries explain that they rule. How do they rule? The one who rules can only properly rule if he is able to rule over himself. One who's able to control himself will be successful to control others. One who has no control of himself cannot fully control others. This is not only important for kings to know, this is important for a husband and wife to know. How could you control someone else? How could you convince someone else? How could you inspire someone else if you yourself have a problem controlling yourself? I think it was the Khatam Sofer or some other rabbi once said as follows: when I was young, I had this ambition to change the entire world. When I became a little bit older, I realized that was impossible. So I decided to concentrate on my city. I grew up a little bit more, became more mature, and I saw that was also impossible, and I decided to focus only on my community, not the city. I got a little older and I said, no, it's too difficult. Let me at least work on my family. I became older and I realized that even that was not too easy. So I decided to just work on myself. And that's not easy either. That is a job of a lifetime, but that is where we need to start. If one is able to control himself, then he has a better chance of being able to control others. We're not talking about controlling physical control against someone's will. To have true influence, good influence, a father over his child, over others in the family, he has to be an example. And to be a good example, you have to have some control of the midot, of the ta'avot, of the desires. There is also tell us that there are three crowns: the crown of priesthood, the crown of malchut, of royalty, and there's the crown of Torah. Not all of you can have a part of the crown of priesthood unless you're a Kohen. You cannot have a part or share of the crown of royalty unless you are from Shevet Yehuda. But everybody can have a part of the crown of the Torah, which is waiting there for anyone, for any Jew to grab and put it on him. It's up to every one of you if you want to have a part of that Keter Torah. You will also find another type of crown that is found in the words of the rabbis, a Keter Shem Tov, the crown of a good name. That crown of a good name is on top of all the crowns. The reason for that is, as we will see later on in Mishlei, there are a lot of people who have acquired Torah, but they don't behave right. As we say in Yiddish, they're not a mensch. If a person is not a mensch, is not a good man, he's ulo beseder, as we say in Hebrew, then all the Torah is worthless. It doesn't make any difference. So a person has to have a Shem Tov. A person goes through life, learned a lot, built a lot of buildings, acquired a lot of real estate, made money, but did not acquire a good name. He acquired nothing. Therefore, we do spend some time eulogizing a person, especially if he has a good name, because as he's growing up, we don't know what's going to happen to him. All babies are cute when they're born, but he might be a monster at age 22. Right? So we don't know. Only after a person has lived most of his life, we look back and see what kind of a life, and say, did he acquire the crown of Torah, the crown of Shem Tov? Then he has accomplished a great deal. Otherwise, nothing. It was a waste of time. Next pasuk, Ani ohavai ehav umeshacharai yimatzeunim mini. I love those who love me, and those who seek me early shall find me. Two ideas expressed here. Those who seek, of course, the Torah will find the Torah, will be assisted from heaven. But there's something deeper here. Those who love Hashem, Hashem loves them. So in the Kabbalah it is mentioned that one can actually tell how much Hashem loves him, depending on how excited he is to do the mitzvot. If one is excited to come to prayer, to come to shiur, to do a mitzvah, he really likes it, he enjoys doing it, that is an indication of a mirror image caused by our spouses and by others. But as far as is Hashem happy, does He approve of us? We can tell ourselves in some ways on how happy are we to do His will. In the same way Hashem is happy. He likes those who like Him. How does Hashem express His love for us? How does He tell us He likes us? According to the Kabbalah, there's another indication. If they reveal to Him all sorts of secrets of the Torah. As you know, in the Torah there's a lot of wisdom, but there's a lot of secrets. Not everybody is able to discover the sodot, the secrets. Who is able to receive information about the secrets of the Torah, the Kabbalists? Those who love Hashem. Hashem rewards them by revealing to them secrets of Torah. On the highest level of Hashem's love towards an individual is that He tells the Yetzer Hara, go make peace with him. Don't bother him anymore. In other words, when an individual has worked so much on himself and refined his character so much, at some point Hashem tells the Yetzer Hara, don't bother him. Go bother someone else, but not him. We will see this idea expressed later on again. That is on the highest level. Next pasuk, Osher v'chavod iti hon atek u'tzedakah, riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness. He reminds us that through learning the Torah, one does gain some benefit in this world, but the main reward, is actually reserved for Olam Haba. But there is some benefit in this world too. Why is it reserved for Olam Haba? That's the next pasuk. Tov piryim micharutz umipaz utvuati mikesev nivchar. My fruit is better than gold, better than fine gold, and my produce than choice silver. He's talking about my fruit. Even though in the Sidur there is a Mishnah that talks about the fruit of the mitzvot being that which we benefit from in this world, and the reward, the principle, is waiting for us in Olam Haba. Here, the idea of fruit is talking about the actual reward of the mitzvah in Olam Haba. Hashem rewards us in Olam Haba and not in Olam Hazeh for our own good. It is a better place to receive our reward there. That is eternity. This world is temporary. And even for putting on tefillin one day, Hashem cannot reward us enough for that one mitzvah. It's because life is short. What is He going to pay us with? 2 months? Rupees? Pesos? Dollars? I mean, what are you going to do? If I gave all of you $1 billion, no, not billion, 5 billion, what would you do with it? How would you be able to enjoy all of it? It's impossible. Right? So all this great reward is therefore better reserved for Olam Haba, where we can really enjoy it. Especially we're talking about a spiritual reward. Pasuk, Be'orach tzedakah alech betoch netivot mishpat. I walk in the way of righteousness in the midst of paths of judgment. The commentaries explain on this pasuk, who walks in the path of justice, the path of righteousness? One who learns the Torah and follows the Torah. Those that all they do is think of money, make money, and have no attachment to the Torah, they will not necessarily be walking in the righteous path, in the correct path, because they will be led by their money. The money will dictate to them what is right and what is wrong. Is it worth their time or not? Depends on if I can make money or not. One who therefore is not attached to the Torah cannot possibly walk completely in the ways of righteousness. And here comes a very famous pasuk, that I may cause those who love me to inherit wealth, and I will fill their treasures. There is a word here, a very unusual word used here, the word yesh. Even though he's talking about wealth, the word yesh means essence, something of value. Rabbis tell us that all this that Hashem will reward us cannot be in this world. It has to be in the world to come, because that is where one can receive yesh. In this world, Hashem cannot give one true yesh, true wealth, because this world, the life, the time that we spend here is very short. Some people spend 60, 70, 80, a couple years less, a couple years more. So therefore, anything we receive in this world, we leave behind. Therefore, it's not called yesh. It has no true value. The only thing we take with us is our Torah and our mitzvot. That is deposited in a very safe account upstairs. Nobody can touch that. All the money that we gathered here, people can take it away. And there are many ways that this money can be taken away. There's a lot of crooks out there who want your money. The IRS wants your money. And person can lose money by making a wrong investment. There's just many ways where one can leave this world without taking all this hard-earned money. Because this is not yesh. The true yesh is only in Olam Haba. In the Gemara, you will find this pasuk associated with the ultimate reward that the tzaddikim will receive, 310 worlds. Shai olamot. Yesh, if you turn it around, the word yesh, yud shin, is shai. Shai standing for 310. That is the amount of wealth or spiritual reward that we'll receive, and that is why he says, I will fill their treasure houses. I will give them so much that they will look back at all the hard work and they will say, this is nothing, it was worth it. And that is exactly the feeling that we're going to have when Mashiach comes. And we're going to look back and we'll say, so much torture, so many killings, so many Jews lost their lives, so much hard work, so much diaspora, galut. But when we see the immense reward waiting for us, when Mashiach arrives, it will all be like a dream. It went by so quickly. 5,765 years. It appears to be a lot. But when we see how much is awaiting us, we will laugh, we will rejoice. We have no idea what is waiting for us. Maybe we'll leave the questions for the end, because we're almost done. It's a short perek. Next pasuk. Adonai Kanani Reshit Darko Kedem Mifalav Me'az. In the next few pesukim, there's a common theme. So I'm going to go through this a little bit quickly. The common theme is that Shlomo Melech describes to us, since when was this Torah around? And what Shlomo Melech is describing to us, not only the benefit, the value of Torah, but what is this Torah? What is this all about? That I'm talking so much about it. So from the very beginning, Hashem created me at the beginning of His way, the first of His acts of old. In other words, the Torah was around from the very beginning, even before the world was created. Why? Because the Torah is a blueprint for creation. Hashem used the Torah to create the world. The Torah is created for the world. Everything in this world is dictated and conducts itself through a system that is in the Torah. It's not only the 5 books of Moses, like the Goyim call it. It's not just the Chumash. The Torah, all the Chokhmah in the Torah. And there's a lot of codes embedded in the Torah that only today through computer programs are they able to see. That not only is the history of the Jewish people in the Torah, not only are the mitzvot in the Torah, but all this hidden information is embedded in the Torah. Because the Torah is a blueprint for creation, and therefore it was around before the world was created. And that is what he describes in these pesukim, in different words. Me'olam nisachti merosh mikadme eretz, mikadme aretz, was set up from everlasting, from the very beginning, even before the earth. In other words, even before the world was created, the laws of the Torah were already in place. Even the very beginning, before we said Na'aseh v'nishma, before the Jewish people received the Torah, the laws of the Torah were already in place. Be'en tehomot cholalti be'en mayanot nichbadei mayim. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no fountains abounding with water. Another description of how the world was still not existing. It had no form and no shape. B'terem harim otba'u lifnei gevaot cholalti. Before the mountains were settled, before the hills was I brought forth. From the very, very beginning, you see from all these pesukim, before the planets, before the globe that we call Earth, before space, before everything, the Torah was always around. Ad lo asa eretz v'chotzot v'rosh afrot tevel. Another description, well, He has yet not made the earth, nor the fields, nor the highest part of the dust of the world. B'achino shamayim sham ani v'choko chog al pnei tehom. When He established the heavens, I was there. When He drew a circle on the face of the deep, which is the earth, the planet Earth. Be'ametzot shechakim imal ba'azoz eino tehom. When He established the clouds above, when He strengthened the fountains of the deep. Besumo layam choko umayim lo ya'avru piv v'choko mosdei aretz. When He gave to the sea His decree that the water should not pass His commandment. When He appointed the foundations of the earth. All of these are descriptions of how long the Torah has been around. From the very beginning. And now we're going to continue. Then I was by Him like a little child, and I was daily His delight, rejoicing always before Him. What that is already talking about is that once the world was created, the Torah became even more happy, because now the Torah serves a tachlit, serves a purpose. Am Yisrael, somebody will be able to take it upon himself and live their lives by it. It's not just a book, it's not just a blueprint, it's not just sitting there. And this Torah, even though it's something spiritual, it came from above, and there are many mitzvot that many people do not understand, that don't make sense, because they're hukim, like the red heifer, shatnez, kashrut, they're called hukim, decrees. It has to do with our neshama and not with our physical bodies. There are certain hukim. Nevertheless, the commentators explain that the Torah not only is enlightening, but it actually makes us happy. Those who are down below, even though it's something that comes from above, something so spiritual, and one would think that this human being who's physical would have no enjoyment of it, but we are told that the Torah actually brings happiness into one's life. People are depressed, people have moods, people have changes in their mazal, their ups and downs. This is a source of happiness. Just like when you turn on the music, whether it's classical or something else, music makes a difference. The mashpia, it does set this tone of the mood. The more so, I mean, the Torah Kedosha has much more power in tuning into our neshama and making us happy. And that is why it was something so beloved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as he calls it here, B'sha'a shu'ai, et bnei Adam. What's interesting about all of this description is that at some point, if a human being would ponder all of this, stop for a moment to think about life and the world, he will notice, just like Abraham Avinu did when he was a child, that there is so much chokhmah in this creation. In every part of this creation, there's chokhmah in how it was created. Not only is there chokhmah, it is obvious that it's designed. So if something is so fascinating, if something is designed, then it probably has a tachlit. It probably has a purpose. An architect does not design, an engineer does not build something for nothing. He puts a lot of work into it, a lot of thought, and it's beautiful. And we see the chokhmah, we see it. It's incredible. Just look at the eyeball. It must be that it serves a purpose. They still haven't figured out what the appendix is for. And that is why they tended to remove it. They tended to remove tonsils too. Just because they didn't know what it's for. If Hashem put it there, it serves a purpose. Anything that is made in the world. People are talking about caffeine. Hashem made coffee bean. It's there for a reason. Marijuana, believe it or not, serves some purpose. People overdo it. They misuse it. They abuse it. That's something else. That's a problem. You can take grape juice. I don't know about grape juice, but other alcoholic drinks. And if you drink too much of it, you're going to become high. Is that right? I don't know if it's about grape juice, but there's other things. Yeah. You don't have to drink tequila to become high. There's a lot of things out there that will give you the same effect if you overdo something. So that is one of the ideas that is being expressed in this perek, that Shlomo Melech says, just look around. You can see the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Torah has been around all the time. It's all designed. And what is the Torah for you now? As we call it in Hebrew, Zeoraot Yatzran. You buy a very sophisticated machine. Hopefully it comes with a manual. Unfortunately, for us today, many of the manuals are written in Taiwan. So the English is not too good. But a good manual is supposed to explain how to use this sophisticated machine. Hashem dumps us here. You think He's not going to let us know what to do? Figure it out on your own? No, the Torah is supposed to tell us what to do. And they're going to know what to do. They have 7 mitzvot, that's all. It's very simple. We, through our neshama, in our subconscious mind, we know what is right and what is wrong, approximately. People fool themselves in thinking that something is right or wrong, but subconsciously we all know. Hashem put it into our mind. Whatever we don't know, we're supposed to learn. That's what the Torah is all about. Instructions on how to use this sophisticated machine called life. A few more pesukim we have here. Ve'ata banim shim'oli ve'ashrei deracha yishmoru. And now, I think we didn't translate one pasuk. Mesacheket betevel artso ve'sha'ashu'ai et bnei adam. Translation of that pasuk: we're rejoicing in this inhabited world, and my delights were with the sons of men. As I explained before, that what the Torah does to us, it brings us happiness. Ve'ata banim shim'oli ve'ashrei deracha yishmoru. Now therefore listen to me, my children, for happy are they who keep my ways. He's not only talking to the Jews, he's also talking to the Goyim, because he uses the word Ashrei Deracha Yishmoru, but first he uses Banim, because the Jews are considered the children of Hashem. We have a special relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, therefore he wants us to be more aware than anybody else what he expects of us. Nevertheless, Shlomo Melech turns to everybody and says, listen carefully to what I'm telling you. What should we pay attention to? That it's not important, it's not enough that we know all of this that he's telling us. Ashrei Deracha Yishmoru. You have to live your life by this. So it's not enough that you know this. You have to act upon this. You have to live by this. And that's what it comes down to. Whether one will succeed or not in his relationship with Hashem is whether he listens to him or not. Therefore, Shim'o Musar v'chachamu ve'al tifra'u. Hear instruction and be wise and refuse it not. The point over here is he talks about Musar and Chokhmah. Musar is the ethics, that which leads to Yirat Shamayim. The rabbis tell us that it's important that a child acquire Yirat Shamayim early on, before the Chokhmah. All the Gemara, all the halachot, eventually that's going to come. Let there be a foundation of Yirat Hashem. Musar is what strengthens Yirat Hashem, when a person regularly, from time to time at least, sits down and learns a little bit Musar. That's what we're doing. Mishlei has Musar too, to remind us about what our job in life is, what's important, what's not, how one needs to go about refining his character, how one needs to work on his midot, his weaknesses. So therefore, listen to the Musar and then become intelligent. That is the right order. Musar first and then Chokhmah. Ve'al tifra'u means two things. Al tifra'u means, and don't interfere, and don't let go. Do it steadily. Don't give it up. Another idea is that if you do things in the right order of Musar and then Chokhmah, then al tifra'u, then your Chokhmah will be there for you. It will support you. Next pasuk is a very important pasuk, also very popular. Ashrei Adam shomea li lishkod al daltotai yom yom lishmor mezuzot petachai. Happy is the man who hears me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the posts of my doors. Shlomo Melech is talking about the importance of regularity, consistency. A lot of people come to this place once a year. I've seen them. Yom Kippur. Well, at least they feel guilty, maybe. That's what it is. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, so I don't accuse anybody. Because I don't know what his reason is for not coming more often. You only want to visit Hashem once a year. Wow. I feel bad for you. Hashem would like to see you every day. So that's why it's important to be consistent. When one is consistent, he shows his true love for whatever he is doing. If one is consistent with his wife, he doesn't forget her birthday. He's consistent, right? He does things steadily, regularly. He spends time with her. That means he wants to. He cares about her. You don't spend any time with your spouse. That means you don't value that relationship. If you really like something, you spend time. You want to do it. You want to be with it. And the same thing is with our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If we're consistent, that means we care about it. We show we love it. It's important to us. So therefore, be consistent, lishkod al daltotai, to come to my doors, to my gates of Torah and prayer. Ki motzei matzah chaim vayafek ratzon me'Adonai. Whoever finds me finds life and shall obtain favor from Hashem. How do we obtain a favor from Hashem? How do we make Hashem happy? The last pasuk, towards the end of Kohelet, how does he seal his book of life, Kohelet? Sof davar akol nishma, et Elohim yirav et mitzotav shemor ki zeh kol adam. The bottom line, sof davar, after telling you so much, you know what the bottom line of life is? Yirat Hashem, fear God. Forget about everything else in life. Getting married is important. Having children is important. Making a living is important. Relaxing is important too. Being healthy is important. There's a lot of things that are important in life. But you know what the bottom line of life is? Fear Hashem. Remember that He's your boss. You work for Him. You work for other people too, but who's the real boss? Hashem. Sof davar, that's the bottom line of life. Either you have Yirat Hashem or you don't. Don't confuse me with anything else. That's the bottom line. So if you want to have Ratzon me Hashem, you have to basically learn His Torah, fulfill His mitzvot, and this way you will find life. In other words, you'll have a good life. And whenever we say a good life, we're not necessarily talking about only in this world. We're talking about Olam Haba. And this is how you will find favor in His eyes. That is how pretty much he also finishes up this perek, this chapter. That is the bottom line. To find favor in Hashem's eyes. Now, there was once a rabbi who met up with his student after many years of not seeing him. So, how are you doing? Rabbi, believe me, I have no complaints to Hashem. He must have been doing well. The rabbi says, who cares if you have no complaints to Hashem? I want to know if Hashem has any complaints against you. That's what I care more about. That you have no complaints to God. Who cares? Good for you. I mean, that you're doing well. What's more important? Is Hashem happy or unhappy with you? That is what we need to aspire to find favor with Hashem. And the last pasuk is V'chotei chomes nafsho kol mesanai ahavu mavet. But he who sins against me wrongs his own soul. All those who hate me love death. Basically, what he's saying now is that when one commits a sin, an injustice, he shouldn't think that he's doing something against Hashem. He's just doing something against himself. He's the one that's losing out. Chomes nafsho. It's against his own soul. He's hurting himself. And that's a shame, because one who hurts himself is not only hurting himself down here, he's hurting his share in Olam Haba. Once Mashiach comes, the rabbis tell us we don't accept converts, because everything will be obvious. The same thing is with Teshuvah. Once Mashiach has arrived, the Teshuvah is not going to be the same as it is now. One can still do it on his own when things are not so obvious and clear. And why is this so important? Because we're talking about eternity. We're talking about our Herek L'Olam Haba. Depending on how much we invest, that is how much we will reap later on. One who's hurting himself is not only hurting himself here, he's hurting his share to Olam Haba. We're talking about affecting one's destiny in eternity. That is why it's important to pay careful attention to all these words and say to ourselves from time to time, where are we holding? How are we doing? Not financially. We go consult, many of us go consult with financial advisors, how to best invest our money. But what about our mitzvot, our maasim, how to best invest our life? How to make the best of our marriage? That is very, very important too. I'd like to conclude with what the Zohar says about Chokhmah. We talked about wisdom, the importance, the value of wisdom, all this knowledge that the Torah has to offer to us. There's an incredible Zohar that says that in the year 600, in the 6,000 year, in other words, in the equivalent of 1840, the gates of wisdom will open up. Zohar makes that kind of a statement. And we will have so much more knowledge than before. If you look at the year 1840 until now, all of a sudden so many discoveries. Why are they called discoveries? They're not true inventions. An invention means something did not exist before and the guy invented it, created it. No, all it is a discovery. It was always around. You think Thomas Edison figured out how to make a light bulb, a phone, and all of the many discoveries. They were all, the knowledge, the information, the technology was there. Just it was covered up. The gates of wisdom will open up in the year 1840, and all of a sudden, the world changes. Horse and buggy for thousands of years. How many discoveries were there over the years? There are a couple here. The printing press with Gutenberg. You had eyeglasses that the Chinese, I think, discovered. You had the telescope. You had a few little things. But basically life was the same. Yeah, I think what people wore changed a little bit. Human beings were the same. They still are the same. You had barbaric individuals back then. You have barbaric, cruel people today too. Look what's going on in the Middle East. But Chokhmah will open up, the gates of Chokhmah will open up, because Mashiach is getting close. That is an indication that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is letting us know that He's about to flood the world with information. That is why they're calling this the information age. All of a sudden everything is shared, all this Chokhmah in the internet, and the click of a button, you have access to so much information. And all these discoveries and inventions, every couple months, every year, new stuff. Everything is outdated. You have a computer that's 2 years old, it's from the Bronze Age. There's so much Chokhmah. And this is nothing compared to the Chokhmah that we're going to have when Mashiach comes. There will be tremendous more Chokhmah then. Things that the people not even aware of today. Because then everybody will receive clarity. But ladies and gentlemen, the greatest Chokhmah of all that we will have when Mashiach comes is the Yedi'ah of Hashem. Is a better understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which we don't have the clarity today. That is the ultimate chokhmah, the ultimate yidiyah, is to know Hashem. And as I've said in other lectures, lada'at, the word lada'at, doesn't only mean to know, it means to connect. A husband knows his wife, he connects with her intimately, he knows her. They're one, they bond. That is the ultimate, the greatest benefit that we will receive from all this chokhmah, is to know Hashem, to be one with Him. Hashem will become one, and Bezat Hashem we will become one with Him.